So with the announcement of Street Fighter 6 Year 4 DLC with Tifa and the new cast of characters joining the roster with the announcement at Summer Games Fest, the developers have been doing the rounds with a ton of new interviews lately. So a bunch of new articles just came out this week, which detail a lot of interesting comments about the future of the Street Fighter franchise, Street Fighter 6, and the actual goals of the producers and developers of Street Fighter 6. So you might be seeing a lot of snippets of these articles going around on social media. I saw a bunch of those myself. So I gathered 3 of these articles from different organizations that interviewed Nakayama-san and Matsumoto to go through them, and we will then piece together the highlights and react to the actual statements made on the YouTube video. This will be edited down to the best bits for you and see what the deal is, what's the goal with Street Fighter 6 going forward. The announcement of Tifa as one of the Street Fighter 6 Year 4 DLC characters alongside Yasmin, Arjun, and Bosch. So one of the stand-up moments at Summer Game Fest. Turns out the pair have a mutual friend who works at Square Enix, who they began talking to about a collaboration of some kind around 3 years ago, so since 2023. As for how Tifa will actually work in Street Fighter 6, Nakayama kept his cards close to his chest, but did confirm that she will have the same fighting style she uses in Final Fantasy VII. But there is something special about her mechanics. She has materia-induced gameplay that is specific to Tifa. How this actually works, though, remains a mystery for now. Here's the official blurb on Tifa from Capcom. That's exactly what they said at the Summer Games Fest as well. But what happens after the Year 4 DLC are all released? With Street Fighter 6 now in its 4th year, some are wondering how much life it has left. Capcom recently announced the game had sold 7 million copies, an impressive milestone that's not far behind Street Fighter 5's total of 7.9 million. Yeah, it's gonna blow that out of the water. I wasn't really familiar with how well fighting games like Street Fighter and other fighting game titles sell over time. That kind of was a detail I had missed for a while, that the sales over time post-launch are actually extremely significant, and the longevity of the multiplayer game platform itself does matter a lot. So Street Fighter 6 is so far ahead of Street Fighter 5, it's gonna blow it out of the fucking water. Street Fighter 7, it seems, is not coming anytime soon. I personally want Street Fighter 6 to be running and operating for as long as possible, Matsumoto told IGN. When we initially kicked off the project, our internal goal was to hit that 10-year life cycle. But that's where working so hard to improve the quality of the game and to make sure that the characters were introduced and are attractive and appealing. And the question regarding Street Fighter 7, that's not something we're really thinking about right now. We're seeing a lot of new players coming into the game right now, and we want to continue catering to that particular audience. New players they want to cater to. So Street Fighter 6 and maintaining its longevity is the main focus. 10 freaking years. That's interesting, comparing the life cycles of Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 5. Street Fighter 4 released in arcades in 2008, and Street Fighter 5 released in 2016, but the home console version was 2009. So Street Fighter 4 rather, was like 7 to 8 years, depending on how you look at it. Whereas Street Fighter 5 was 2016 to 2023, and that was also like 7 to 8 years that it was the main title. But for Street Fighter 6, they're going for 10 fucking years, man. Which implies they want this to be more of a platform. We got Exerto here, Virginia Glaze on the scene. Street Fighter 6 director addresses Tifa, Ingrid's role, and what's next for World Tour mode. So I think there's going to be a couple of unique takes in this article. While Nakayama-san said no other guest fighters have yet been determined for Street Fighter 6, he admitted there is a good chance martial arts-focused characters from other popular properties could potentially make their way into the game for future seasons. Let me keep an open mind here. We haven't decided on anything specific yet, but if a character is a good fit for a fighting game, meaning they translate well to that style of gameplay, then there's definitely a strong possibility. And conversely, forcing a character into a fighting game when they don't fit that mold would be difficult, or rather it would just end up feeling weird, so that's not something we do. Okay, I mean, this is kind of a corporate response, just keeping the door open, but he said there's definitely a strong possibility. I hope we don't make this a regular thing. I'm gonna be honest. I've already spoken my piece about how I feel about crossover characters. I'm okay with Tifa. Honestly, I prefer Tifa more than Terry and Mai, as weird as that sounds. The Terry and Mai crossover kind of felt like SNK opening up the pocketbook and being like, please put us in the game. And I don't know, something about that feels like a kind of a paid ad to me, which is also what Tifa is. So there's an element of that that's happening here. I know everyone's gonna rag on me, like all the SNK fans, and you know, the shared history, CVS 3, CVS 2, and all that. Like, Yeah, I understand there's a ton of shared history. I get it. It makes sense to some degree. They have been careful so far about crossover characters, but I don't really want Street Fighter to be a platform for other gaming characters to partake in. Maybe I'll get over that eventually. Tekken seems to not really suffer from that. They're okay with that idea. It's still very new to me. It's very fresh, and the 4 characters a year makes it feel pretty shitty when they're not trying to build forward with something new and throw a bone to some legacy characters. So I don't love that idea. If you cross a certain threshold or you land on the wrong guest character, it does feel like a paid advertisement. That's honestly how it feels. I do think it can cheapen the experience. So I just feel like there's like not that much upside. There's a little bit of upside potentially and a lot of risk. So that's how I feel about the crossover characters. I've already said that piece, spoken about that before, but it sounds like there might be more in the future. Well, this is a big one. Street Fighter 6 producer explains why Season 4 has so many new characters. Matsumoto-san explained that their decision to lean so heavily into the new characters comes partially from Street Fighter 6's relatively young player base in comparison to other Street Fighter titles, as well as the goal to strengthen the Street Fighter as a brand itself. I think this makes a lot of sense. This is what my take has been on the new characters. This is interesting to me. The core player base used to be 35 to 40. That's too old. You need new fans. We definitely saw that. That was an issue with Street Fighter 5. Street Fighter 5 had very few new players enter the scene. However, while I can tell that there are younger people playing and you see like a lot of younger pros cropping up like Blaz and Hanao, where are these people in my demographics, man? Like, all my viewers are unks. My YouTube analytics have barely skewed younger with Street Fighter 6. I'm just not appealing to the kids these days. Anyways, carrying on, the response to upcoming DLC fighters Arjun and Yasmin has been mostly positive. The Filipino fighting game community specifically is overwhelmingly excited about Yasmin's inclusion as the series' first ever Filipino fighter. I haven't seen reactions from like the Indian FGC. I think the Indian FGC is a little bit less represented on social media, but they're out there, right? Like, I'm kind of curious what the reactions have been to Arjun. Unsurprisingly, players have been itching for gameplay updates, patches, and even the inclusion of new mechanics alongside Season 4. Compared to Street Fighter 5, Street Fighter 6 has not made big additions to its existing mechanics, with the drive system largely left as is. Honestly, I feel that adding more mechanics would make the game too complex, he told us. We released it in a state where the mechanics were already quite refined, so we aren't really planning to add new systems at this stage. That said, we are conducting various experiments. Still, I wonder if there's anything we could potentially add down the line. All right, leaving the door open. I kind of agree with this. I don't think Street Fighter 6 needs new mechanics. I do think the drive system was very thoroughly thought through, and there are a lot of mechanics with the game on release. It's not a bare bones game by any means in terms of systems. If anything, the issue is how do you tweak those systems without collapsing the house of cards, because it feels like the game is very finished as is. I personally would just like tweaks to the mechanics and tweaks to the data of what we have. Just change the balancing of things. Like, that would be enjoyable enough to me. I don't need a new mechanic. The things that I would want, obviously, are like things to tone down raw drive rush and neutral, and things to like just get rid of throw loops. Like those two things alone would do so much for me. An air dash would be nice. That's just a different game, man. Okay, so what did we learn from this article? That they know that Yasmin was a success. Sounds like no World Tour updates at all. That seems a bit of a more definitive stance that World Tour will not be getting new content, not even an exception for Tifa. No big mechanics, so nothing coming anytime soon. Maybe not even big balance patches. Slow and steady is their mission. And also that they're purposely trying to do new characters and appeal to a younger new fan base, which might mostly be in Japan, to be honest. Okay, this is another article I saw being passed around. I'm not familiar with this website, to be honest. This is Den Famine Nico. Is this Nico Gamer? I don't know. And one more thing, I really wanted to include a character from the Philippines. That's because many of the key members you're familiar with, such as those involved in the fighting game community with Vicious, hey, whoa, that guy, he's in the chat right now, who's well known for his commentary, actually have roots in the Philippines. Damn, this guy right here? With Street Fighter celebrating its 40th anniversary in 2027, it felt like we had run out of new ideas when it came to the connection between the country and martial arts. That's when I turned my attention to Filipino martial arts. We hadn't incorporated them into previous series, and they would look great as battles in the game. First, regarding Yasmin, whenever I create a character, I always put in the thought of making them a new protagonist. Luke is on the package for this game, but to put it extremely, it wouldn't be strange for anyone to be on the package. I'm developing the game so that any character can be the main character. We've also discussed that if there's one character who will take on the lead role in Year 4, it will be Yasmin. She's turned out to be a character with very protagonist-like qualities. What do you think of Arjun? Arjun has a large build, but his arms don't extend. I wanted to create an Indian fighter. Is that just meant to be like... Yeah, I think they're just trying to say he's not going to be Dalsum. Like, we already did the Dalsum thing. We're trying to do something new. It has a modern feel that will be easily accepted by today's players. That's right. I think it incorporates many modern elements. What does this mean? I think that means Arjun is not a charge character. I think they're just trying to distance Arjun from Dalsum so people will be excited to play him. The fact that Bosch will be a playable character has been a hot topic, but did the development team have the intention from the beginning to make him playable at some point? Actually, I intended to do that from the very beginning. There were lots of hints laid in various places, including the prequel manga, so I always thought I definitely wanted to make this happen someday. Are there any particular design aspects you focus on for Yasmin and Arjun, or any points you'd like people to pay attention to? I can't reveal the specific fighting style yet, but as for Arjun, he's not just a brute muscular guy. He has a certain suppleness to him. Oh, that is a rather supple upper body you possess there, especially in the chest region. Mr. Arjun. And actually, he's really handsome. He's supple and handsome. I mean, you keep selling me on this guy. I was already a fan of Arjun. Thanks for being the motion capture for Arjun. Yeah, you know, they brought me into the motion capture studio and they said, look, Brian, we got to be honest with you. Your chest, your arms, they're just like a little bit too big. Like, we know we wanted this guy to be supple and handsome, but we're gonna have to, unfortunately, digitally reduce your proportions a little bit. Does Yasmin use of knives in combat stem from her Filipino cultural background? That's right, they fight using a type of knife called karambit knife, which is used in silat, a traditional Filipino martial art. We've incorporated plenty of Filipino elements, so please pay attention to the visuals as well. Yasmin is a character whose design took a really long time to finalize. It just didn't feel right. Also, our team's designs tend to become a bit eccentric if we're not careful. We went through a lot of trial and error to avoid that. Designing Yasmin was probably the most challenging part. Regardless of whether you use them yourself or not, I think that simply having a character from your country of origin in a game can create a sense of empathy and attachment. It's very gratifying to know that people in those countries feel that a character representing my country is in Street Fighter, and we do hear such comments. I do feel like Street Fighter is strayed away from that aspect where Tekken had leaned into it for a while. So it's interesting to see them so clearly focused on bringing that aspect back of like the World Warrior idea. I do appreciate that, but also at the same time, I hope that doesn't dissuade them from doing really, really goofy characters. Because I think I like goofy characters. I make fun of the whole Abigail being Canadian thing. You kind of have to be careful. Like, every character has to be treated with respect now. I kind of like weirdos. I like G. Like, where the hell is G from? And G is an alien. So I like the characters that aren't from any specific country of origin. I mean, I guess there's Bosch, right? From the made-up Nashal place. So there is that. I guess they'll just do that whenever they put a character that's going to be weird. They can always just say they're from Metro City or something. So they have their ways out. But if they're going to focus mostly on trying to do representatives from other countries, there's always going to be this element of like respectful portrayal and try to take the characters more seriously and not lean into like negative aspects. Or like another villain, for example, where would they come from? So that's one thing that can limit that sort of approach, but it seems like they're doing a balance. I guess they even specify they're going to be all protagonist style. Yeah, I guess that's I find that a little disappointing. Now that I think about what they're actually saying, every character is a potential protagonist. They're going to represent different regions. Any of the characters could potentially be on the cover art. None of those are going to be weirdos. It sounds like they're going to be leaning more towards cool, relatable pro tag types. No more freaks. Yeah, you need a freak or two in there, man. Freaks are for the Avatar now. That's true. I guess if you want to get your freak fix, you go to Avatar battles. Even the familiar characters were all new characters the moment they first appeared. Considering that, I think the more the better. Of course, it's equally important to cherish the existing characters. Okay, they threw a bone to the legacy fans. The line drawn between what makes a Street Fighter a game that also features weapons and the true essence of what makes a Street Fighter game as seen in the Super Headbutt. When introducing a new character, I imagine you have the aim of doing something you haven't done before or differentiating them from other characters. As you experiment with various forms of expression, how much room do you feel there is still for expansion in your expression? Good question. I like this question. It's something that I think about a lot too. Nakayama. That's right, trends and fashions are constantly changing. In fact, Yasmin, who was just announced, uses weapons, but looking back at Street Fighter series up until now, There haven't been that many characters who fight with weapons. There's only Balrog's claws, right? In that sense, there's a boundary, a line to draw regarding how far is acceptable as Street Fighter. Well, there's been more. Cody Knife. It depends on if you count like Rolento and Falk, the stick wielders, and JP. It depends on how you mean about like, does it have to be something you pick up, like a supplemental item, or is it built into the character? In that sense, I think there's a boundary, a line to draw regarding how far is acceptable as Street Fighter. Even if we use knives, I believe the right answer is when players say, that's Street Fighter-like. We plan to continue experimenting within that boundary, further expanding that range of expression. Talking about this, it makes it sound like the knife might be more unique than just in some of her animations. I don't know. In the past, there have been characters who threw hand grenades, you know. Rolento does fight with a stick, chains, and grenades. When is the guy gonna have a gun? Come on now. I think that's when they go too far. Something about hand grenades feels so cartoony and over the top that it works, but a gun feels like, okay, that you entered NRS. Street Fighter 6, you can really tell what kind of fighting style a character has just by looking at their design. You can tell it just by selecting a character. It's easy to understand, isn't it? You can kind of imagine it from the atmosphere. Even for characters whose visual designs have only been revealed so far, I think that's what everyone imagines will be like fighting. Is it also your intention to have users imagine various ways of fighting with these new characters? That's true, but I have a feeling that my prediction for Arjun won't be right. The whole picture hasn't been revealed yet, after all. What is Arjun's deal? That's what I'm saying. I wonder, he's inhaling, right? I wonder if it's going to be like a Seth tandem engine type of deal, like pulling people in. I wonder if he's going to have a command grab and a move that pulls you in. Or is he going to air dash? Like, Arjun is the character by far I'm the most interested in because they're doing something cartoony and leaving a little bit to imagination. Okay, I think that's the end of this article. So, what did we learn overall? We learned that Tifa has been in the works for quite some time. They keep harping on this materia system. We don't really know what it is, but potentially there might be an actual unique mechanic for Tifa. Is it going to be different loadouts? Going to be equipment? Is it going to be a stand system? Or is it just going to be another stock system like they've done with so many different characters? They're looking to hit a 10-year life cycle, which is 3 years longer than the average of around 7.5 that they did for Street Fighter 4 and Street Fighter 5. They're looking for new characters to represent more specific countries to appeal to the populations of those countries, and all characters will have pro-tag energy. So does that mean that's the end of weird freak characters? Any weirdos being added to the cast? I don't know. That seems to be a really big focus for what they're doing going forward. They want to appeal to younger players, new players. They said that the previous age range used to be 35 to 40, but now there's a lot of more players between 15 and 25, which I suspect is mostly in areas like Japan. And they keep saying that people have not figured out what Arjun is doing yet. I'm very curious what that character is going to be doing. So, Street Fighter 6 is going to become a platform for a long time, seems to be the intention. And they also mentioned no specific plans for mechanical changes. So, they don't plan to rock the boat anytime soon. And they're also open for potentially more guest characters. And, what was the last point? There was one more. And they were more firm that World Tour is actually ending, that they're not going to be bringing back something specifically for Tifa, which is surprising to me, but they were a lot more clear that there's probably not going to be anything with World Tour coming anytime soon. So that's kind of the lay of the land I can gather from these specific interviews. So I think the big takeaways are what I just mentioned. So surprising to hear that Street Fighter 6 will be a 10-year platform. They have found the recipe for success, and it seems like they want to ride that gravy train for as long as they can.